today we're going to be prepping some pancakes to go in the freezer. I like to have some type of toast or pancake or some type of carb before I go work out. And one of the easiest things to do with pancakes is to make a big batch and then throw them in the freezer. So that's what I'm doing today. I am using freshly milled flour. I've been absolutely obsessed with my Harvest grain mill from Nutrimill. So the recipe that we're using today is from the same book, Grains in Small Places, Freshly Milled Flour Cookbook by Kara Britch. So far, this book has been pretty good. This particular recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar, a half a teaspoon of salt, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, which I thought was a lot, but you definitely need to use the 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And then 2 eggs, a fourth of a cup of unsalted melted butter. And then it's also calling for 2 1/4 or 2 1/2 cups of milk, along with 3 cups of freshly milled flour. And in the recipe book, it does show you the grams, which is actually what I use, but I know a lot of people don't, so I was just kind of giving you the overall recipe.
Now what you see here is me actually testing my egg. You'll see that this one's floating, so for me that means it's not good. And then I put this one in, it sinks, that means we are good to go. So I only use eggs that sink.
Now, I have done this recipe recently with some bananas, trying to make like a banana nut bread pancake, and it's delicious. So I am going to tweak that recipe a little bit, and probably will be doing those because they turned out wonderful. So for this recipe, I do go ahead and get all my dry ingredients together and get that in the bowl ready to go for whenever I'm going to grind my flour. And then I go ahead and get all of my wet ingredients ready to go also. Now, one thing when you're putting the melted butter into the cold milk, it can like coagulate a little bit, or like you get those little bits of butter where it's, reconstituted into a solid, I guess you would say. You could warm your milk up. I did that one time with some frozen milk that I had in the freezer, and I think it did work a little bit better. You also could just warm your milk up on the stove or in the microwave really quickly, but I do think it works a little bit better if you warm your milk. And I am going to tweak this recipe just a little bit by adding my sourdough starter into it, just for some added benefits, for your gut. It doesn't call for that, but I had no issues by adding that. Now, the recipe calls for soft white wheat. I did use some soft, some spelt, and just a little bit of red hard white, because I'm honestly trying to use it up. So I've just been kind of throwing it into things to use it because it's not my favorite, but I can kind of hide it in things. I think with grains, you will start to learn which grains you like the most. I definitely lean towards soft white wheat and spelt. Those 2 are my absolute favorite for pretty much anything. Breads, pancakes, any type of cake, I'm gonna lean towards those. Now, once you've milled your flour, you're going to mix everything up, all your dry ingredients, to make sure it's very well incorporated. And then you're going to combine your dry ingredients with your wet ingredients. Now, I did use a little bit more milk. It gives you a range with this recipe, which I really like. So if you want your pancakes to be a little bit larger, like as far as like fluffy, then you're gonna, obviously not use quite as much milk. And then if you want them to spread out a little bit more, be a little bit runnier, a little bit thinner, then you can, add a little bit more milk. For mine, I tend to like my pancakes on the thinner side, so I went a little bit heavier on the milk. So the recipe stops there and tells you to cover it and let it sit for like 15 minutes while your griddle heats up. But I actually decided to throw some of my sourdough starter in here. So the way I do my sourdough, it's a little bit different. I don't let it bloom or let it sit out or anything like that. I actually just add the discard. That may not be the way that you're supposed to do it, but that's what I do. So I just add my discard to any bread, any pancake. If I'm making, a banana nut bread, anything like that, I just add my discard and then I feed my starter and throw it back in the fridge. And that's how I do it right now, because I'm not actively making sourdough and I don't want my sourdough starter to die. So for me, instead of throwing my discard away, I just throw my discard into whatever I'm baking, and so far I've had no issues whatsoever. Now, if you are doing like a bread, I still add yeast because the discard isn't quite as active as if I had fed it and I let it double and then I'm using that active starter in my breads. But when you're throwing this discard in there, you're still getting some of those good bacteria that have grown, in your bread that you're making. So that's how I do it. And her name is Ethel. I'm doing my best to keep her alive. So I just feed Ethel with 1/4 cup of filtered water and then 1/3 cup of flour. That's the actual recipe for feeding the sourdough. And I use rye flour because I feel like it gives it a little bit more of a sour flavor to it. You'll see I'm not measuring anything because at this point I've been feeding her for so long, I just kind of eyeball it because I know the consistency I'm looking for. But if you are starting out, I would suggest to measure when you feed your starter until you get used to the consistency that you're looking for. And then you just scrape down the sides. I put on the lid and throw it back in the fridge because I'm not trying to, double it to use it to bake sourdough. So that's what I do. And that's how I keep Ethel thriving. Now, while my pancake batter was waiting, I wanted to show you my kitchen and just how disastrous it had gotten. And this is why today is a cleaning day. One of my favorite things to watch are videos that inspire me to clean. So I thought, why not just go ahead and film it? Because it's real life. This is what it's like when you are cooking a lot. I feel like my kitchen almost stays dirty. And even if all the dishes are clean, there's still, the floor is done. It still just feels like there's always something going on. And that's okay. So I just decided to take some time and just really focus on getting my kitchen as clean as possible. So my 15-minute timer was finished, and then I just needed to get my griddle, to start heating up. And while that was heating, I went ahead and washed just a couple more items. I find that if I multitask and I set like small goals and where I can wash like maybe 10 items while something else is heating up or while something else is resting, then I'm able to get through things a little bit easier and a little bit faster. It just works for my personality, and that's how I do it. So once I'd finished up washing my 10 items, and I actually think I ended up doing like 12, but it was time to go ahead and start cooking the pancakes. I find that a griddle like this works so well. If you want to use like a cast iron or a carbon steel griddle, I think those are way better than what I have here, but with my stove, this just works the best for me. So all you're gonna do is ladle out your pancakes, and sorry for the view, I know you can't see it, but basically you're just gonna ladle them out and let them cook. And I'm gonna let my dad tell you again how to know when pancakes are ready to flip, because last time he put it so eloquently.
What about the pancakes?
When they start to bubble, that's when you turn them.
So as he says, when you start to see the bubbles popping up, then you'll know that it's time to flip them. I also kind of look at the edges. If they look like they're starting to be a little bit more done, then I also look at that to see about flipping them. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook all of these pancakes and get them on a cooling rack, because you want them to be completely cooled before we do the next step to put them in the bag and put them into the freezer. So while those cooled down after I cooked them, I decided to go ahead and set myself another small goal to finish washing as many dishes as I could and get the dishwasher loaded. I think I did a pretty good job of, getting most everything done other than what I used for the pancakes. So the pancakes are cooling, and quite frankly, they look delicious, and I can attest to the fact that they tasted delicious, but it doesn't take that long, but I really like to give them a good chance to cool and not have a whole lot of moisture before I put them into the bag to put into the freezer. So I decided to let them sit out a little bit longer and go ahead and make my pre-workout breakfast. So this is what I eat before I go work out. I just take one pancake, and I'm going to show you a little bit later on what I do when I take it out the freezer. But if it's fresh like this, then I just take my warm pancake and I add a little bit of this
nut and seed butter that I get from Costco, but you can just use peanut butter and you can add chia seeds or whatever, you know, that you want to put on it. And then I add a little bit of honey and I just stick my fork in it, and whatever kind of drizzles off of it, that's what I do. I find that honey has a stronger taste, so I don't have to use as much of it as I do like maple syrup. And then I usually drink half of one of the Elementy electrolyte packets with a full glass of water, and that's what I do before I go work out. Now, before I run to the gym, I did want to go ahead and get the pancakes in the freezer. I didn't want them sitting out for the entire time I was gone. And what I do is actually cut up pieces of this King Arthur parchment paper. You can use any type of parchment paper, but I just cut up small pieces, and I'm going to use that to put in between my pancakes so that they don't freeze together. I found that this is the easiest way, so when I'm pulling them out, I can pull them out one at a time or two at a time, or whatever I'm needing. The parchment paper just keeps them from freezing and sticking together. So I just cut those up, and you can make them smaller. I did them a little bit bigger than I usually do for this video. I would usually cut those in half as well, and I have had no issues breaking the pancakes apart with smaller pieces. But you're just gonna do one pancake, one sheet of paper, one pancake, one sheet of paper. That's it. And then once you have your little stack, you're just gonna put it into the Ziploc bag, and that's what you're gonna stick into the freezer. And I've had no issues, and this is my favorite way of making sure I have some type of little carb that I can eat pretty easily before I go work out. Also, two things I wanted to do before I went to gym. One, I wanted to show you an update on the kitchen where we were at. So, you know, some of the pots and pans and dishes are drying, but overall, it's really starting to look good. There were a few other things I needed to wash, but we were gonna get to it. Also, before I go to the gym, I've said this in a previous video, I do not like pre-workout, but I do drink this Amazing Grass green drink. I have been drinking it for 10 plus years. It is the Amazing Grass Energy, and it has some B vitamins and things like that, and I just find that it gives me the energy I need without the jitters and all the negative effects of pre-workout.
Okay, so I just got back from the gym, and I genuinely feel like there's so much to do, and I'm gonna spend about 20 minutes cleaning the kitchen, and then I'm gonna eat some lunch. I feel like just taking breaks in between is helping me get motivated to actually complete cleaning the kitchen. Also, I need to make rice for tonight's dinner. I just picked up something easy because I don't want to clean the kitchen and then have to cook and then clean again. So I just picked up something I can put in the oven really quickly, but I do need to make some rice for that. So I'm gonna finish up, like I said, for about 20 minutes, eat some lunch, and then I'll probably, I don't know, start back again. So, because I already have new dishes to wash from where I did the pancakes earlier, which were delicious, by the way. All right, 20 minutes on the clock.
So if you're like me and you don't have a knife block, these little covers that I got off Amazon that just, you basically slide the knife into to put them in a drawer, these things are amazing. I will link them below. I love them so much. But they really free up my counter space so that I don't have a knife block just sitting out taking up room.
The next thing I really want to tackle is this. I need to go through it, but I feel like it's just a task for another day. So we're just gonna put that in there for now and close it. So I keep this little tray that keeps like my soap, and this is how my egg tester jar that we just leave here, but it catches all the soap and it just gets kind of gross. So I'm gonna throw this in the dishwasher so when it runs through, and go ahead and clean this up a little bit as well. So one thing I want to tackle is my vitamins. So I have my vitamins for my dogs, and then the vitamins that I take. And as you can see, I mean, I don't take them all every single day. Like, I kind of take them as needed, but I do want to get them more organized because
right now they just sit here in this bag. I have this like, I don't even know what you call these things. Little small cabinet. What are these called? Sideboards. I think they're called sideboards. Anyway, so I have this, but I want to take and move everything out of this little area and move it to one of the other ones, and then have this for like my vitamin area. So it's easy to get to, and maybe I won't forget to do my vitamins, so we'll see. Okay, so it is the next morning, and I thought I'd show you what I do with my frozen pancakes really quickly and how I kind of cook them. I broil mine in the oven for 2 minutes on both sides, and that just is what works for my oven. But as you can see, since you put the parchment paper between it, they just kind of come apart super easily, and that makes it just quite convenient. I do 2 pancakes before I go to the gym with some peanut butter and honey like I did yesterday. But you can do it in a toaster oven, you can do it in an actual toaster, whatever you want. You can do it in the microwave actually, but I like for mine to be a little bit crispy, kind of like toast. So I'm gonna do that super fast. Also, I got so tired last night. I had to cook, and then I had to rewash more dishes. And so I still need to do the sink and the countertops, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the cabinets and the floor. All that today. I just was, quite frankly, exhausted last night. So we paused, but we'll get it done. And I just wanna show you, I literally just put them in here and let them broil until they get kind of hard. I mean, and everyone's stove is different, so definitely watch them because they will burn really fast. But for my oven, 2 minutes on both sides, and it's cooked all the way through and crispy on the outside. I'm gonna see if you can hear the crisp. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, before I put it on my plate with my multitude of strawberries, because it is strawberry season, and I eat a lot of strawberries right now because it's my favorite food. And you may think it's odd that I sit my stuff on the edge of my plate like this. It's so that air can get up under it, because it tends to sweat if you lay it flat. So I just kind of sit it on the edge and let it cool just a minute. I have to keep my peanut butter in the fridge, or this particular peanut butter I keep in the fridge. So it's kind of hard to spread when it's freshly cold like this. Once it warms up, it's a little bit easier, but good enough. I need to go buy some more. This has become like my favorite breakfast. A little bit of honey. I am going to go eat this breakfast and then finish up in this kitchen. I just want to show you, I actually take old t-shirts once they're, you know, cannot be worn anymore, and I cut them up and make these little rags so that I can clean kitchen, bathroom, whatever, and if they get too dirty, I just throw them away, and it's kind of easy, and it's just a way to get a little bit more life out of a t-shirt that, you know, maybe has a stain or whatever it may be. This one obviously had holes in it, so yeah, cut it up. And now I'm gonna clean with it. And like I said, once it gets too dirty, I just throw it away. But other than that, I can wash it and reuse it. Okay, kitchen is officially clean. Probably the cleanest it's been in a hot minute, to be totally honest. I do have a couple projects that I still need to do, but overall, finally, a clean kitchen. And I'm so excited. You can actually see like space. So, Mom, I'm gonna need you to comment on how proud you are of me below. So anyway, yeah, so next I want to go through organizing all the cabinetry. I gotta get my spices, and then cleaning inside of all the appliances. But that is a task for another day. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider subscribing, liking, commenting. Anything is helpful.